Good afternoon, everyone. If you are applying to a Peabody PhD program, I would like for you to complete this link. This will guarantee that you will receive an application fee waiver if you apply to a Vanderbilt slash Peabody PhD program. If you are applying to a master's program or an EDD program, you do not have to complete this form. If you're not sure whether you want to do an EDD or a PhD, you should do this form in case you change your mind. But if you're sure that you're only going to do a a master's program, then you do not need to complete this form. It should take you about 2 minutes to do this form, and yet it will also allow us to be in contact with you even more. Next slide, please. So my presentation is called The Nuts and Bolts of the Graduate School Application, and this is directed to both folks in the graduate and professional programs, again, MED, EDD, PhD, and hopefully you'll get some insight into what is behind the thinking and how you can ensure that your application is as strong as possible within your ability. Next slide, please. So this application has two parts, um, and well, actually two bodies that are interested. One is the subject, which is you, and the target is the reader. So you have your part because what you want to do is to influence the target toward the outcome that you want, and that is to say, oh my, this is a wonderful application. This person must be admitted to this program. Next slide, please. So in these applications, who reads them? Well, these applications will be read by admissions committees, which are composed of mostly faculty members. I say mostly, there could be an administrator or two there. So you should be aware of that. But for the most part, you are trying to influence a committee of faculty members toward the outcome that you want. Next slide, please. So what are they interested in? These are some of the things that they're interested in: your academic ability, your analytical ability, that is your ability to ask and answer questions, your persistence and motivations, what happens when you hit a roadblock, your creativity and vision, your ability to multitask. You're going to be doing many things at once. For some of you, that could be courses and working. For PhD students, for example, that could be taking courses and doing research. They're also interested in your ability to write clearly and concisely, because that is what we do as scholars. They're interested in your ability to collaborate productively. That is, how well do you get along with others, and how well do you work with others? And that your interest, that is your research and your professional interest, are consistent with those of faculty in the program, as well as the program itself. But basically, this is all about productivity, your ability to be productive. Next slide, please. So these applications have three parts. There are biographical information, objective criteria, and subjective criteria. And I'll go into detail about each one. Next slide, please. Biographical information, of course, is who you are, what's your name, what's your phone number, your email address, et cetera, et cetera. It is just what it says, biographical information. Objective criteria. These are important. That will be your grade point average, your curriculum, and standardized test scores. With grade point average, it's not the end all and the be all, but you want to make sure that your grade point average is sufficiently strong to let the readers know that you have a strong academic background to pursue and pass the courses that you will undertake. Your curriculum, which represents your scholarly representation, with your scholarly preparation, will let them know not only what courses that you take, but how tough were they. Graduate school is not the place where you want to begin thinking about doing tough work. So if you were one of the folks who took the easy professors when you were an undergrad, that might not be very helpful to you. It is not the place where you want to suddenly be encountered with rigorous coursework. And I can tell you that the coursework in Peabody is rigorous, but it's very rewarding. And finally, standardized test scores. Standardized test scores, you should consult the program to which you're applying to find out what the requirements are, or if there is a requirement for standardized test scores. I'm pretty sure maybe someone has already spoken about that. Next slide, please. So subjective. There are three major parts of these activities. One is called a statement of purpose, the other is letters of recommendation, and the third is your academic and professional activities. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these elements because they're all very important. Next slide, please. In that statement of purpose, there are two things that you need to consider: your substance elements and your style elements. Substance, what you say; style, how you say it. Next slide, please. With respect to that, there are some things that you are required to say in your substance elements. That is, these are absolutely necessary on everyone's application. There are some things that are optional for you to talk about or discuss. And with regards to elements, again, those things that you said, how do you say it? So for example, if I see you walking in the street, like I see a couple of folks I know, like Colby, I can say, hello, how are you? How's everything going? Or I can choose another style and say, hey, what's up, Colby? So next slide, please. Now with these substances, again, the elements that you must include, what do you want to do? If you don't tell us, we don't know. And if we don't know, we can't determine whether you will be a good fit and a good match for this program. What is your research interest? And why is this your research interest? You didn't just wake up on one Wednesday morning and say, I think I want to do community development and action. No, you have a background. This is something that you're interested in. Why are you interested in this? And who are some faculty members, for example, that are doing work that you think would be consistent or aligns well with both your research and your professional interests? And please understand that, yes, master students can have research interests. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's also a good thing to have. It just undergirds your scholarship even more. And also, what is your career goal? What is it that you want to do when you are pursuing this degree at the Peabody College of Education and Human Development? And how does that fit into the big picture of what you want to see yourself doing? Next slide, please. So, substance. These are some specific questions that you want to answer. And that is, what faculty members do you want to work with? Again, and why you're applying to that particular program. Among the optional ones, how has your diversity status shaped your interests, your academic journey, and what you want to do with your graduate degree? Now, please understand that your diversity status could be race, it could be religion, it could be sexual identity, it could be geographic. Geographic, I mean, let's say, so for example, you're from a very rural area, and that, that could affect how you see things. And that is a very valuable perspective that you can have on your scholarship, your academic perspectives. So determine if you have a diversity status. It could be, it could be a disability, it could be veteran status. Determine whether you have a diversity status, and if you want to share with us, because it lets us know a little more about you. How has it shaped your academic journey? If you are like many people, you don't have a perfect academic record, but that's okay. If you do have some kind of hiccups on your record, you want to explain, but not make excuses for any blemishes and problems. Understand this: that faculty admissions committee is going to look at every single class that you took every single semester. So if you have a C or a C minus in a major course, do not sit there and think, they're not going to see this, they're not going to see this, they're not going to see it. Yes, they will. So what you want to do is go to the punch and explain, but not make excuses for it. Next slide, please. So keep in mind, the style that you use should leave the reader with the impression that you will be a productive graduate student. That is really important. They're doing all of this work, and you've done all this work to say, hey, I'm going to be what you want. It should give the impression that you'll be the best thing since the air conditioner in New Orleans in August, okay? It should leave them with a positive impression. Next slide, please. So with those style things, you want it to be short and specific. This thing should be a page and a half to 2 pages long. Rarely, very, very rarely, it should be longer than that. And please don't try to be cute and try to get you down to 8 or 9 font. No, no, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. Keep it to 10-ish, or actually 11-ish, 12-point font. But you don't have to insult us by going 14 font, because then we're like, oh, you don't have anything to say and you're making it large. It should be a page and a half to 2 pages, about 11-ish font or so. And make sure that it is it is going to accomplish its purpose. For aspects or characteristics about yourself, you're going to use stories to highlight your strengths rather than assertion. Instead of saying, gosh, I'm really, really persistent, you can tell a story of, I once I had an error on a paper that, no, once I had a professor think that there was an error on the paper, but apparently the professor misread my quote. And so I went to visit the professor a few times, not harassing her, but after all of these meetings, the professor agreed that this is something that is incorrect and that my grade on this paper should have been higher. So you want to use a story to highlight your strength rather than assertion. Next slide, please. Also, this is really, really important. You should convey to the reader the message, why should you select me, not why I want to be selected. If you think about your undergraduate institution, for example, and let's say next week they send out a massive blast, an email blast to all the students who are there saying, okay, so we're going to give away a $5,000 scholarship. And if your bill is paid, that money can come directly to you. Who on this screen is going to say, oh, beloved alma mater, that's so kind of you, but you can keep your money because you've done so much to me? No, you're all going to want the $5,000, unless, of course, maybe you're just that independently wealthy. So the message you should convey, if you decide that you want to be in consideration for that, is, why should you select me? And this is the same for your application. Why should you be the person that they select from this pool of applications? What is the story that you have crafted to let them know that you would be a solid, not only a solid applicant, but you will be a productive graduate student and a wonderful emerging scholar among all the Peabody scholars, including the faculty? What is it about you? It should be customized at the program you're applying to. And it should be conversational in tone. Please don't lecture the faculty. So for example, if you're applying to psychology and human development, please don't tell the faculty, psychology is the study of the, do you believe that a committee of Peabody faculty in psychology have any idea what it is? Yes. So that page and a half to 2 page, you've already wasted time. And then you're lecturing them. You're telling psychology professors what psychology is. They already know. I can promise you that. Next slide, please. Okay, here's some other style elements. Please do not use humor. You don't know who's on that committee. You don't know anything about their racial or ethnic background. You don't know anything about their age. I'll tell you the story very briefly. Many years ago, well, not many, I'm not that old. So years ago, I sat on a Vanderbilt admissions committee for a summer program. And a student in her essay said, if I'm admitted to this program, I will bring a New York swagger. Now, let me tell you this. So not only was I the only person of color on that admissions committee, but I was also the youngest person. Everyone else was in their 60s and Caucasian, male and female. And so they all looked to me, Don, what is this New York swagger? And I didn't want to throw the student on the bus. I said, oh, it's one of those scented oils. It probably smells very nice, but you should consider more academic. Yeah, don't try to be funny. You don't know who's reading it. Skip the flashy opening and closing. Look, you've got a page and a half to 2 pages. This is valuable real estate. Don't try to just launch right into it. I intend to earn a Master's of Education degree in again, community development action to begin my career as a fill in the blank. Just go launch right into it. I intend to earn a PhD in community research and action for blah, blah, blah. Just launch right into it. Launch right into it. Don't go telling, oh, when I was 3 years old, I got my first book about blah. No, 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 no. Nobody cares what you did when you're 3 years old. Remember, it's about your productivity. Next slide, please. Now we go to letters of recommendation. So you want them to be from persons who hold the minimum degree that you're applying to. So if you're applying to an MED program, then you want people who have at least a master's degree, possibly a doctorate, whether it's an EDD or PhD. And they should be able to evaluate your ability to complete that degree. You also want to make sure that it's the right person. So if you're applying to the PhD in special education, it might not be a good idea to have your favorite English professor, unless that professor has some really good comments. So when they write these letters of recommendation, they should be detailed with specific comments justifying. If they say that you are bright and you are persistent, then they should give an example of that. Do you also want them to comment on those things that are valuable to you as an emerging scholar? Critical thinking, analytical reasoning, writing. Remember, we do academic work and we write about it. Your character. Nobody wants mean, nasty people or selfish people to be a part of their program. We leave that to the politicians in Congress. I know, unwanted political commentary. And your ability to work collaboratively and productively. Also, if there is some kind of blemish on your record, you want to use your recommenders as someone that says, although he got that C- in this course, I can assure you this does not represent who he is. And then they're going to give specific reasons why. So if you do have any of those blemishes, you definitely want to make sure that you have somebody kind of like, the old, with the lead singer, and these are going to be your backup singers. You're going to mention it and they're going to say, yes, this is the rest of that story. Next slide, please. Remember, you want them to be, again, written by people who hold a minimum degree, specific comments evaluating it, address your productivity, and support your application. You have that? I said that twice because this is important. The wrong recommenders can destroy your application. You can write a beautiful statement of purpose, and you know what it looks like? Puffery, self-indulgence. But if you have someone else saying, the stuff in that letter, in that statement of purpose, not only is it true, but I can tell you it's beyond true. And, and I think that she even understated it in these ways. So, written by people who know you with the proper degree. If you're applying to a PhD program or EDD program, your major recommendation should not be all by folks who have a master's degree. That's not letting the faculty know. That's not a peer-to-peer conversation. Next slide, please. Okay, here's an example of a strong recommendation. So this person says, Jean is one of the brightest and most motivated students I've had to work with in my 30-year career as a researcher. I would not hesitate to sign her immediately in my group. This is a faculty to faculty. This says, in the 30 years that I have been in this discipline as a faculty member, this is one of the brightest, period. Now, if a faculty member in 30 years will encounter many, many students, both in the classroom and in other settings. I would not hesitate to sign her immediately. This is language that faculty will understand, because in 30 years, this is probably somebody who is tenured and probably well-established in their career. Here's another example. Mr. Stevens has great talent, potential, and qualities to be successful. He is bright, focused, very tenacious, competitive, and honest. He is able to work independently or in a group, and his collegiality and leadership skills are remarkable. I urge you to accept Mr. Stevens in your program and that you offer him a full tuition waiver, an assistantship, or fellowship if there is such available. This is saying, look, he has this, and if you're smart, you'll put your money where your admissions is. You want to have him in your program. These are just two examples. There are many more. And this professor also went on to give more details about why she thought Mr. Stevens was that way. Next slide, please. So When you're talking about your activities, that's also a very important part of your application, which most of you will end up doing within your statement of purpose, unless there's a specific part. Look, whatever it was, whether it was research, whether it was a job, whether it was an internship, you want to talk about the relevance. Why did you do this? Why does anybody care why this was done? What was your role? Was it passive? Was it active? You want to make sure that you are discussing those things and your role in it. It gives faculty a chance to understand your background, not only your background, but your potential to continue to succeed. It doesn't guarantee it, but it says, this student has qualities that we would like to have in our program. You're going to give us concise description, highlighting the results. That is, what did you learn? If you had this internship with the Department of Education, what did you learn? How long were you there? What did you do? Why did you do this? Why would anybody want to do this specific intern? What did you do while you were there? What did you learn? And most importantly, how did this activity prepare you for graduate studies or prepare you more for graduate studies? How did it, and maybe it did, maybe it gave you a stronger passion, or maybe it gave you wanted to do this even more after having completed that internship. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't quite ready for graduate school, meaning that you are not going to be graduating by, if you are not graduating either December 2021, or you are not graduating in May 2022, May or June 2022, and you're going to be eligible for a summer research program. Here is a link to the summer research programs that are offered by Vanderbilt. It's gradschool.vanderbilt.edu/research, and you're going to get a PDF copy of this slide as handouts. I'm going to send that link to the folks at Peabody to share with you so you can have this presentation. Next slide, please. Here are your takeaways. Look, this statement of purpose, which is a major part of this application, is going to be 1.5 pages to 2 pages, and it's going to give the application readers a good sense of why you are a strong, viable candidate for this opportunity. Your letters of recommendation are going to be the buttress, the thing that moves it forward. It's going to allow credible peers on the admissions committee to advocate on your behalf for the program in which you're applying to. Next slide, please. So if you haven't started your application, start so immediately. There are deadlines, and you can find out about the deadlines in the individual programs that you're applying to, whether it's the MED, the EDD, or the PhD. You're going to use the tips in this presentation to get your, it's a personal statement, ignore that, statement of purpose correct. And you're going to select the right recommenders. You're going to give them all the materials they need. You're going to give them a copy of your CV. You're going to give them a later copy of your statement of purpose, and any other thing that you think will help them craft a strong letter on your behalf. And you're going to give them time to write it. Please don't be rude and give somebody a week to do this. Now, sometimes things happen, like you gave it to someone else and you asked them and you reminded them and they still haven't done it. Under those conditions, it's acceptable. But in general, try not to make that the case. Start talking to folks that you're thinking about to let them know, hey, I'm going to be applying to this EDD program and I'm going to need letters of recommendation. Will you agree to be one of my recommenders? And can you write, here's the thing. Most people tell you, can you write a strong letter of recommendation? I don't know what the hell that means. Can you write a strong, detailed letters that will endorse my qualifications and my ability to be successful in this program? Your words are going to matter when you ask this person. If you just tell me, can you write a strong letter? You don't know what I think is a strong letter. So you just left that up to me. So if you get a crappy letter, who's that on? The people in admissions committee don't know that. So can you write a strong, detailed letter letting the applications admission committee know why I'm going to be a strong, viable candidate for this program? Next slide, please. So at this point, I am ready to answer any questions. I see there's been a lot of activity in the chat box. It's actually to my left in the corner of my eye. So if you can stop sharing my screen, I will engage the audience with the time I have left to answer any questions that you might have. Any questions? I guess I'm gonna ask my dear friend Hasina, if you can moderate that. I know there's a lot going
Kim
on.
has been doing an amazing job while
Okay.
you've been talking to answer several of the questions. And
Sure.
Don, would you mind if we share, you said you're going to share the PDF and we will be sure
Sure,
to
I
share
will send that to
with
you.
us.
Should I send it to you?
That would be great. Yes.
Fantastic.
And we will make sure that it is shared with all of you. And we are running a little bit behind. So we might switch.
Wait a minute, wasn't I 12:35 to 1:05? I'm ahead of time. I have 5 minutes for questions.
Oh, do we?
Yes, she's kicking me under. Oh, she's kicking me under the Peabody bus.
I had you.
It's up, and I will say I typed you, and I will tell this to everybody. I typed you, it's like, I need you to speed this up just a little. So thank you for being here today. And everyone, I put my email in the chat. I'm answering a couple of questions, but I'll put my email in the chat. If you have other questions, either for me or for Don, just reach out to me and I'm happy to respond. But Don, thank you so much for making time to be here today. I know you are a very, very busy person.
Yes, thank you all for having me, and I wish you all success on your applications. Again, don't forget to fill out that link. It'll shut down at 5 p.m. Eastern time. 5 p.m. Central time, and we'd like to get your waiver. Y'all have a good Saturday and take care.